Hi everybody, TJ Mac Vintage Cards, and today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite parts about baseball, and that is the stolen base. And I can tell you I'm grateful to have grown up watching baseball when the stolen base was at its height, and it was really such an important part of the game. Now, before 1980, there were only 2 seasons in the 20th century where a player stole more than 100 bases in a season. You have Maury Wills with 104 in 1962. He didn't have a card in 62, so here's his 71 Topps card. And then next to him is Lou Brock, who had 118 stolen bases in 1974. And here he is depicted on a 74 Topps card. In the late 70s into the 80s, the stolen base really took off in Major League Baseball. And we saw 6 seasons in the 1980s where there were 100 or more stolen bases. And here are the 2 preeminent base stealers of the 1980s, and each of them had 3 100 stolen base seasons in that decade. Here's Rickey Henderson depicted in his 1982 Topps card, and this was the season where he had 130 stolen bases, which is a major league record. But Henderson also had 100 stolen bases in 1980 and 108 in 1983. And then next to him you have Vince Coleman, who had 110 stolen bases in 1985. This is his rookie card in 85 Topps Traded. 107 in 1986, and then 109 in 1987. Incredibly, Rickey Henderson led the American League in stolen bases 12 times. He led the league every year of the 1980s except for 1987, when he played only 95 games due to injury. Here we have Rickey Henderson's Topps run minus his 1985 Topps Traded and his 1989 Topps Traded. But these would have been the cards he got out of the packs from 1980 to 1989. Now, the 87, 88, and 89 are Topps Tiffany, which is what I collected, but they would have been the same cards that would have come out of the packs from that year. Now, Henderson really, I think, is the most unique player in Major League Baseball history. I'd put him up there with Babe Ruth and Nolan Ryan, with just having some very different types of skill sets that you don't tend to see in baseball. And I'm not sure there'll be another player like Rickey Henderson again, certainly that had that type of productivity on the diamond. And you can say what you want about his bravado, and I'm really not a big fan of it, to be honest with you. I tend to appreciate more humble players, but few non-pitchers who were not power hitters dominated the game that Rickey Henderson did, at least during my lifetime. And Tim Kirkajian, who's a writer with ESPN, told of when Henderson reached base to start a game one time. And it was Orioles manager Frank Robinson who was determined that his pitcher and catcher were incapable of stopping Henderson from stealing, so they did not attempt to throw as he stole second and third base. Now, Robinson said this, "We might have thrown the ball into center field or down the left field line. We couldn't stop him. He was just too good. So they would have rather given him the bases than risk an error and have him score on the air." Now, former Major League pitcher Tom Candiotti had this to say of Henderson: "There was nobody else like him. I hated Rickey Henderson. I really could not stand him. He never swung at my knuckleball. He never swung at my curveball. He had a strike zone the size of a coffee can. If you threw him a fastball, he would hit it for a home run. If you walked him, it was like getting a triple. What could you do about this guy? There was just no way to stop him." And my personal memories of Henderson, I've talked a little bit about this in the past, is really that 1989 ALCS championship game against the Toronto Blue Jays, where Rickey Henderson won the series MVP. And in that 5-game series, he hit 400 with 2 home runs, 8 runs scored, and 8 stolen bases. And then also in the World Series, I believe he hit like 434. So he even hit higher in the World Series than he did in that ALCS series. And just a fun player to watch, and I really do miss guys like him in Major League Baseball. Now, when I grew up, Lou Brock was the all-time stolen base leader, and here you see him in his 62 Topps rookie card. And then Henderson broke his record, but there was that other great base stealer that I talked about here in the 1980s, and it was Vince Coleman. And Coleman was not a good hitter by any means, but maybe only Rickey Henderson was better on the bases, or Lou Brock and even Ty Cobb. Coleman led the National League in stolen bases 6 straight seasons from 1985 to 1990, but was really only a one-dimensional player. Now, where Henderson had 12 seasons of 90 or more walks, Coleman never had more than 70 walks in a season, and he was a career .264 hitter. He only had 28 home runs and 5,406 at-bats. Henderson had a career-high 28 home runs in both the 1986 and 1990 seasons. Coleman had a lot of off-field issues later on and was not always respectful of coaches and management. And then after 1990, he pretty much became a part-time player and bounced around to a few different teams before being out of baseball in 1997 at the age of 35. But real excited to add to this card because I think he's an important part of 80s baseball history and baseball history in general. Another card I added to this group is this 1981 Topps traded Tim Raines. It's a recent pickup, and Raines led the National League in stolen bases 4 times from 81 to 84. So he's an important part of 80s base stealing. His 808 stolen bases rank 5th in Major League history. He was also an exceptional contact hitter, winning a batting title with a .334 batting average, and he did that in 1986. And he also reached base 3,977 times in his career, which is 45th in Major League Baseball history. It's more than Tony Gwynn, Lou Brock, Mike Schmidt, amongst many others. And he was also a 7-time All-Star and was elected to the Hall of Fame in 2017. Now, this is just a really cool shot here of just these 4 of the 80s base stealers. Or, I'm sorry, 3 of the 80s base stealers and Lou Brock. But I think Lou Brock was just the standard when I grew up because he had the stolen base record, so I wanted to add him in with this grouping. And these are the 4 leaders in stolen bases outside of the dead ball era players. So Henderson's first, Brock is second, 5th all-time is Tim Raines, and 6th all-time is Vince Coleman. And then you have Ty Cobb, and then the original Billy Hamilton, who played in the 19th century, they're 3rd and 4th all-time. Now, the question is, will we ever return to a time like the 1980s when the base stealers competed with the power hitters as the most exciting players in the game? When base stealing was a thing of beauty that we got to see frequently on display, which is just one of the great memories that I have. There was nothing like watching Rickey Henderson get on and then breaking for second, then third. And it's really unlikely that we'll see that time again, I think. Major League Baseball stolen base totals are on the decline from a record high in 1987 of 3,585 down to 3,308 in 1997 as we saw the power hitting era come into play, and then it was down to only 2,281 in 2019. Now, much of this has to do with the increase in the strikeout rate, which was 23% in 2019 compared to only 12.5% in 1980. There may be other reasons, too, such as the rise of analytics, where it's too risky to steal bases because catchers have become better defensively. They put better athletes back there, frankly. And pitchers have better pickoff moves and more streamlined deliveries. And I even see this with my son, who's a pitcher. They really work on that. And then there's also, of course, the risk of injury for these very high-priced investments. Now, my question is, though, to end this, is where have you gone, Rickey Henderson? As Paul Simon said about Joe DiMaggio. And us 80s fans turn their lonely eyes to you. I'm glad to have been a baseball fan in the 1980s, where I was treated as some of the best base running the game has ever seen. Everybody have a great Sunday and week, and we'll talk again soon.